Hey guys, David here with a new review for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, we'll be talking a little bit low because I am doing this review in the middle of the night and my parents are asleep, so I don't want to bug them. So, bear with the somber silence. But anyways, S.H.I.E.L.D. has returned with a new episode entitled The Singularity, which is believed to be part 1 of what they perceive to be a 4-part saga that's gonna be the last few episodes of season 3, entitled Fallen Agent, which chronicles Sky's involuntary betrayal at the end of last week's episode, where she was infected by Hive and now she is under his control and is now pretty much an enemy of the team of the S.H.I.E.L.D. team. And the reason why I say they perceive it to be a 4-part is because the 4th episode is actually going to be a 2-hour finale, so that's kind of like 2 episodes right there. So it's kind of sort of like a 5-part finale, if you will. But anyways, we got our first episode, and it started off a little bit slow, but then it got really, really interesting. And this was a really good episode filled with an awful lot of things happening in it, and most of it was good. But there were a couple of iffy spots that even I have to question. I'm like, what's up with this? The one story that I want to talk about first is basically Coulson, May, and all of them going on this little mission to try to track down, I can't remember her name, but she's the Inhuman that's able to replicate herself. And they see her as possibly being the biggest threat should Hive get to her first. Only Hive did in fact get to her first, and this leads to an altercation going on right there. May gets another cool badass fight, Lincoln gets to show off his powers. And this also progresses to another cool moment where they infiltrate the South Dakota, I think it was, that South Dakota home of that one guy who also ends up becoming an Inhuman, which was a nice little twist. I was expecting him to get killed off, but now it looks like he's staying in for the long run because he does in fact become an Inhuman and becomes a follower of Hive. So it's cool to see that character come back because I like them. So now him being that sarcastic villain, I'm like, okay, cool. This team kind of needs it. This show kind of needs this type of villain. So I'm looking forward to how that character plays out. And I like him coming up with all those names and all that cool stuff. But anyways, what was cool in this story with Coulson, May, and Lincoln going out on their own little adventure here, what was cool was some of the dialogue scenes between May and Coulson were really, really good. It showcased how good of an actress Ming-Na Wen is, as well as Clark Gregg. And I also liked the fact that Hive did actually get to that Inhuman first. I was expecting her to be kind of like saved at the last second, that whole kind of thing, but Hive did in fact infect her. And this kind of makes her a little bit of a threatening presence. Like the fact that she can multiply and there could be an infinite amount of her. As long as the main actual Inhuman is still alive and intact, she could keep replicating herself. And that is, to me, a scary thing. So the fact that Hive is now controlling her, that was rather neat. And who I dare to find somebody, post in the comments, somebody who did not smile at Coulson having his own little shield right there. That was pretty cool. Even May is like, where'd you get that from? That was rather cool. Now comes the problems, and the problems were rather glaring that I'm like, okay, this is a humongous plot hole, or at least a plot contrivancy found in the episode that I think if it was a little longer or if it was spread out, it wouldn't be that much of a problem. First of all, Lincoln getting benched again? Really? Is that really necessary? Because at this point I feel like we're spinning our wheels with Lincoln. I really want Lincoln to be an interesting character, but how many times am I going to see him and Coulson get into an argument and Coulson say, you're sitting out of this one. No, you're going to go in with this one, but with the catch. No, you're sitting this one out. Like, I feel like we're doing this too many times now, and it's time to put a capper on this. Like, either you're going to keep him on the team or you're not, because this is getting old. Coulson breaking his leg or injuring his leg off screen, it just kind of came out of nowhere. That to see him on those crutches, it was so jarring that I'm willing to bet anything that it was just Clark Gregg who got injured and they had to work it into the script. Because at the beginning there's just one line of dialogue by Max saying, did you see the bone sticking out of his ankle, or whatever the hell he said. And then for the remainder of the episode, whenever Coulson is just standing, there's no crutches, but when he moves, crutches appear out of nowhere. So it's a little weird, but you make do with what you got. I understand that the people behind the show probably had a little issue that Clark Gregg had to face with him possibly twisting his ankle somewhere. It was probably the lip sync battle that he did. He probably hurt his ankle doing that thing, so blame them. Blame L. Cool J. He's the one behind all the. But anyways, the last glaring problem, because that wasn't so bad, but the one thing that I do think is just a little underwhelming was the fact that supposedly at the end of this episode, Coulson, along with the help of Talbot, take out the actual business dealings that Hydra was going for. Like, you know, take Hive out of the equation. All the stuff that Malik was doing behind the scenes that have to do with money, that have to do with technology, all that kind of stuff, get taken out in one fell swoop under this little operation that Talbot was having. And again, it's kind of sort of done off screen. Coulson's just watching it happening behind the screen. And I feel like that moment should have been a little bit more monumental. And instead, it just happens like that, to the point where even Coulson's like, this should have been a great day. But it kind of isn't, because we're still dealing with Daisy out there. So it's just kind of like something that was swept up. It got done and then swept under the rug. And I'm like, that should have been much more important than it actually was. So moving on to the other stories that happen in this episode. Daisy is now under the full control of Hive, and they're going around forming their own little Inhuman team. He takes that doctor that Fitz and Simmons were going after, and on the other end, you got Fitz and Simmons trying to meet up with this doctor and hoping to find a cure to cure Daisy and get rid of this disease. And for a moment there, Fitz and Simmons' little story of them being undercover and whatnot was kind of the weaker point, because it almost felt like it was going nowhere. But then the episode tremendously surprised me by bringing Hive and the fire starter, the Burning Man. I loved his line where he's like, I would say Burning Man, but that has something to do with young people in the desert. And I'm like, yeah, I never understood that. But anyways, all of them go to that club, and all their stories interject, and we have some great scenes. We have Daisy flat out threatening, in cold blood, threatening Fitz, like, the next time I see you, I'm gonna break your neck. And that was just relentless. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty scary. Which makes me feel like the only way that Daisy could possibly redeem herself is, in fact, if she is the one to die by the end of the end of the season, and we lose Daisy for good. And then we have another scene where Simmons is almost seduced, so to speak, by Hive, who has the memories of Will deep down in there, and that was a really good scene. But I'm happy to see that Simmons did not go through with it. And again, it is endearing and a big, you know, a moment for them to have, for Fitz and Simmons to finally hook up by the end of this episode. Mac factored into this whole thing, and he did his part, although it was, again, another little issue I had with the episode. His fight with the fire starter, you know, they were like throwing practically grenades at it. He throws like a Molotov cocktail, he throws something that explodes in midair, and that was a really cool shot, only for it to just end right there. And I'm like, how did that fight end? I mean, where he literally, like, the next scene he's in the hotel room, so I think that could have been handled a little bit better. But again, the meeting of these two stories was actually rather exciting. It made for some great moments there by the end. So, did have a fair share of problems that I can't necessarily overlook, but it still had some enjoyable moments and some surprises that really did make me happy. So, first part to this ending saga was good, but I do think it could have been a little bit better if it was maybe spread out across a couple of episodes, or simply put, they would have just taken some stuff out from the beginning, and the pacing could have been just a tad bit better, and we could have gotten rid of some of these issues. So anyways, for that, I do give the Singularity a low 8 out of 10. I'm going to have to give it a low 8 out of 10, but still a rather enjoyable episode. So, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of this week's episode of S.H.I.E.L.D, and I'll see you guys next time.